Well, hello everyone. Hopefully you can all see my screen. We're going to get rolling here with our conversation today about BIM 360 design. And real quick, just so you know who you're talking to, I am your virtual presenter, if you will. I'm Kevin Closson with Topcon Solutions. And I've been with the company now 20 years, which always blows my mind when that actually comes out of my mouth. And throughout these years, I've educated countless individuals, both on the private side and government agencies, whatever it may be. And anymore, my main focus really is in custom training and or consulting, helping folks figure out what workflow works best for them within Civil 3D or whatever it may be. And then also a lot of hardcore style development, actually a whole encompassing style template. Well, it depends, but if there's questions on that, I'll make sure I have contact information at the end. You can give me a shout here and we can help you out with that as well. But that 20 years, I'm quite proud of that. Now about us real quick, Topcon Solutions. And I think this is fantastic, actually. We are a very unique company, and you can see us across the United States there. So we're probably local in your area, and we're ever expanding there. And really, I just want to kind of maybe point out that when you hear Topcon Solutions, a lot of folks think that we're just a hardware firm, and we're not. We obviously cover all of those needs, all of the control, gathering data, whatever it may be. But we actually can provide the complete field to finish solution. We can take that data that's been gathered in the field, we can process it, and we can help you move that into your Autodesk products, okay? And interesting, that's why we're here today. So speaking of Autodesk products, today's presentation is about the BIM 360 field or offerings. And I wanted to kind of lay this out a little bit. Notice I said agenda and goals. So I only have you for so long, literally 30 minutes. We can go on this for days. But I want to kind of lay out what this concept is and talk or just talk to it like many of you that have been contacted by prior may need to know a little bit more about it. So I just wanted to kind of lay that foundation first. Then we'll talk about kind of first steps. How do you get involved with it? Okay. And in fact, I had to write that. Where does one start? So there's a couple little pieces of the puzzle that need to be in place before we can get moving along here. And then today's discussion is talking about where do you fit in, okay? Now, today's focus, as we talk BIM and SIM, we'll get into that a little bit deeper here, but today's focus is really, that's my goal. That's what I'm trying to convey is just getting a handle on this, hopefully you can hear me there. Dave, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am. I am here.
Hello, my partner. I have with me a special guest. I got Dave Campbell with me. He works with me here now, and he actually focuses on a bulk of the BIM 360 products as well. And we actually put in a little plug here. We just did a class for AU. It's being offered as we speak. So if you're interested, it's what is it? Bridging the Gap. So
Bridging the gap.
it
Yeah.
takes it just a little bit deeper. But anyway, I have him with me, and I thought we'd just sort of again continue our conversation about these products. And when I was getting into this, and this is why I thought it might be nice to have Dave, these last three bullet points really made were my initial questions. Where do you start with this? And I say that because often when you look at any of the BIM 360 products or just as a whole, it's often a very slick demo, which is this massive, life cycle of a project and thereafter. And it just was kind of hard to jump in. Like, what do I need? Where do I start? And so forth. So that was kind of my goal with this, is to lay these first pieces out, get a little better understanding of it, and really the process itself is file management. Once you have things in place, and there's more to it than just that, of course. But if you can kind of boil it down to that, you'll see that it isn't as difficult as it all plays out. Now, along the way, I also thought we'd talk a little bit about just the collaboration, or excuse me, BIM 360 and its benefits over traditional methods of sharing data. Okay, and that was the big reason why I wanted to have Dave along, because we had a great conversation in that other class that we were talking about. And then toward the end there, we're going to just jump in and just show some of the setup, where the files are stored, located, that kind of thing. So you can just get a better idea of where everything is at. Now at the end, I'll make sure, like I said, I'll have a phone number on there, as well as a link to emails and everything else. So if there is follow-up questions, please get a hold of us. We would love to chat with you, figure out what's going to be the best method for you, and what direction to go. All right, so forgive this slide, it's a little busy here, but big picture here, I did make bold the key points. BIM, SIM, and then there's two SIMs in there. They're kind of interrelated, but Dave, you've been working on this for quite some time, and um, how would you encapsulate just the concept of BIM, just the term BIM?
So BIM, as we all know, has so many different meanings: building information modeling, building information management. It kind of starts walking, or I'd say spreading itself out a little bit. When I think about BIM, though, it's a process as a whole, right? And
Right.
when I think of BIM as a whole, when I step back and take a view of it, overall, I think is BIM more as tools. Again, they're processes, but they're also tools, right? Tools that fit into the entire construction project. Like, where does this fit in? This specific tool has a use, right? And when we get those kind of multi-use tools, they're very beneficial for everyone. And I think that's where we start to see, how BIM 360 comes in. And when you start looking at, the civil information modeling, civil information management, that construction information modeling management, I think as you can all see, the biggest letter in all three of those, and the one that is the same, is the information. So as Kevin kind of said there, it's really about information management, and how we, again, kind of control, but also allow access to that information, and how we track it as it grows, as it changes, and how do we harness more data from that information, right? Because we have all of these models, whether they're BIM models, they're civil models, the civil 3D drawings. There's so much information and metadata in each one of these models, and bringing them all together for that construction project, that construction information modeling, managing all of that data is really huge when we start looking at the bigger picture of how do I fit in to this process.
Right. Thank you, Dave. And now you'll see that we have SIM in there. Now that's a little bit of a buzzword, but you can see how it's interchangeable: civil and/or construction information modeling. And again, today's focus, I did want to kind of go through the lineup, but just briefly discuss some of the main ones, and give a little better feel for what's out there. And I say that because when I was getting into this, I went out to the like many of you, and we start looking up everything, and you start seeing what is it, 6 or 7 offerings on it, and do I need this? Do I need that? And there is a big picture to all of this, and we'll get into that in just a second here. And this is an overused slide from Autodesk, but nonetheless, we'll kind of talk about this. But my goal today is to try to take some of the fear out of all of this. So big picture, there is this massive real-time collaboration process. Now, it's fantastic, but it may take some time to get there. So again, kind of stepping back a bit and focusing on this SIM, if you will, in air quotes there, we're really, or I guess what I'm trying to suggest is you can get into this slowly. And that's what I want to do, is show you where you need to start, and then and figure out, what products are needed immediately. and then it can always grow from there. There is no, in this whole process and or project to project, there isn't necessarily a 1 through 10. It really depends on what requirements of the job or project are. So, there may be different softwares needed depending on who you're collaborating with. All right. So now, before we get too far along, and oddly, I've been asked this one quite a bit. So first things first is, in order to utilize the benefits of BIM 360, you're going to have to go out and download the desktop connector. Okay, and in fact, you could just Google it, and like I say, email me. I'll be more than happy to send you the link. It comes right up. It's just BIM 360, and it'll have it right there. And you'll do that install. And what you'll end up seeing is, this is on your splash screen within Civil 3D, all right, as it starts up. And the traditional, it looks a little bit different from how it used to look, but once it's installed and it's successfully installed, you'll see that you still have your recent drawings, but right underneath it, you'll have your connection to BIM 360 as well, okay? Now that we've sort of established that, and these are our two main discussion points today, docs and design. And now, for all that want to collaborate within this, and that collaboration, we'll actually get into. Actually, you know what? If you don't mind, let me back up a slide here. I wanted to show this one off real quick. Dave, sorry about that. I wanted to talk about this briefly. What are you seeing in that? Again, talking big picture here.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to show kind of that project life cycle. What are you seeing in that? Would you mind speaking to that slide just a little bit?
Yeah, so with the project lifecycle, and as you were kind of saying, Kevin, there is that we all have our own piece, right? We have our own puzzle pieces to the puzzle, the overall kind of puzzle or project, the construction project itself. Typically you'll see that, as you said, again, that different softwares are being used, right? And we've been trying to, one of our biggest kind of hurdles has been making sure that this data translates and it's interpretable, right? So it carries on further downstream. And whether that's coming from a DWG, an RVT, an NWC, NWF, whatever it is, or some of those other file formats, we have to make sure that, again, they translate. Okay, we're starting to see a lot more with the IFCs and things like that, and trying again to make sure that that data is usable downstream. But we also don't want to lose that metadata, right? That metadata that we take time putting in, whether it is again in that BIM model or that civil model. A lot of the information that we take the time to put in, we don't really want to lose that when we move forward in that translation. So kind of looking at that, and then that bigger picture, right, is that we want to collect and be able to retain this information as that project evolves, as the building itself, as the site evolves, right? Because a project, as this kind of cycle here depicts, or this graph here depicts, it all starts with the building and the site going up, going together. But after even handover, that project isn't done. It still is going through that whole building and site's life cycle as they continue to grow and evolve. The design itself, the site, everything needs to be updated, right? And one of our most recent struggles has been the as-built conditions and finding that. And I mean, not trying to spend too much time to recreate it, right? We see a lot of that in our industry now, of people trying different methods such as laser scanning and taking pictures to create meshes, and a lot of conceptual stuff that we're trying to kind of get through and figure out whether they are coming as a DWG, maybe a newer building has an RVT with it, but it's kind of very rare. And we're looking at that and seeing how we can push forward and still continue to take that data forward with us, right? And what uses that we can, again, kind of optimize with it. I think that paying attention to all of that as we go through the entire life cycle of operation, maintenance, and then renovation, again, programming into fabrication, everything has to tie together, right? And one of the biggest things about managing that information, I kind of said it earlier, but is making it available for everyone, right? Not only that, but we, as I was kind of saying there again, like having to go back between different points of softwares, right? Different softwares to get one thing. Maybe you're going to get your schedules and your Gantt charts from this, or maybe you're going to get issue tracking and clash and coordination and things like that in this software. Or there's so many different things, the takeoffs, the commenting. There's so many softwares and programs out there to do that. And again, it's kind of hard to make sure that everything has to come together so we can keep it tracked, right? And I
Right.
think, as you're saying with BIM 360 docs and design, and as we get further into this conversation, we're going to see that, of course, docs and design are huge for our design and pre-construction kind of workflows and processes. But again, this data has to be carried downstream. And if we can keep this in a common data environment, in the sense of, yes, we will see every time that the model is updated, whether it is the DWG or the RVT, it is version controlled. We can actually lock our models, so you know that the authoring essentially is constrained. So if I open up a model from Civil 3D, I can lock it and let everyone else know, hey, I'm working in this, okay? Or I can collaborate if needed. But also in the sense of linking models. So a lot of things maybe I may not be able to do within Revit or within Civil 3D that maybe Advanced Steel or Plant 3D or something along those lines might do a little bit better. And again, we need to translate that data. So this is where we can kind of work together as a team, focused on the overall goal of handing over this data to the project and it being beneficial, right? It not slowing down the project because of our deliverables. They just aren't up to par or what everyone needs. We want to make sure that the data is translatable, but also, as I was saying there earlier, it continues that downstream use. And when we start talking about the other products of BIM 360, such as the next slide there, collaborate with coordination. I was reading collaboration there as I was talking. With coordinate, it allows you to bring everything together, like that Navisworks kind of workflow that we have with the clash detection, right? And you're starting to see more usage of that data. As these buildings evolve, as the site evolves, we're able to go ahead and track these issues and essentially assign responsibility, tracking the responsibility and how these things get taken care of, how they get answered, and resolved, how fast it is or how slow it is, the response times, things like that. All of this data is tracked, and we can keep all of this again in one kind of platform, right? And as we start moving on, then you're going to start seeing BIM 360 plan with the construction production, your planning software, your Gantt charts, things like that. We'll also see layout. We'll see ops, which further just take that data and build, and build. It just further takes that data downstream, right? Based on how you're going to use it. I mean, all of these with each one of these workflows, when you start, especially talking about construction and handing over this data, you think about, what do we need and how are we going to use this? And you see tying into layout back with docs. If someone is going to actually do layout in the field, it's great that if that design is updated at any point in time, whether it is a DWG or it's a our RVT, it's a 3D model, if it updates, it would be great if everyone knew that. So in this sense, BIM 360 is that common data environment, kind of holding all of that information, allowing us to take it throughout the process as much as we need to. And I see we have a question here. Oh no, that's our exhibitor page. All right, I see that. If any of you do have a question, feel free to post that in the chat. But
And Dave, if I could jump in there real quick, and I want to boil this back down to the conversation. I know I'm throwing a lot at you with all of these different products. Today's focus, keeping this incredibly simple, it's docs and design. Okay. Docs is the tool that everyone has to have that for that collaboration process. But in order for the civil environment to now be able to contribute, and we actually come to the party a little bit late here, design is our collaboration tool. So if you're sitting back there at the office there and you're watching this and going, where do I start? Do I need all of these? Well, again, it depends on what the project requires. But boiling it down, it's docs and design for our conversation today. Okay.
Yes.
And And you know, interesting when I was listening to you there, Dave. So why? I mean, there's tons of benefits, real-time collaboration, et cetera. That is very, very important. You know, just having all stakeholders in the conversation at the same time is key.
Mhm.
Again, as Dave mentioned, we have the ability to, you know, assign different rights so certain people can, or access to, you know, they can view it or they can look at it, or, you know, whatever it may be. Um, but our where we're kind of going with it today is talking about the civil portion of it. Now we
Mhm.
have the ability to get in. And Dave and I came up with this slick little slide, didn't we, Dave?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is basically the first conversation. Now, again, I wish I had you for 2 hours at least, but kind of jumping ahead here, what we found in the past, this is just kind of we're discussing maybe benefits or maybe traditional methods and how things have played out in the past, pre BIM 360 design and you know, again, having that ability to tie in with everybody. And there's a lot of different reasons for this, but in the past, as you can see, I just have a 4 different products in there right now. AutoCAD Civil 3D, InfoWorks, which are interchangeable parallel products, if you will. And then on the other side here, you see Navisworks and Revit. Now we have, or as it stands, or in the past, again, there's different reasons for it. One, we didn't have the tool for a while, and another reason maybe we just haven't been asked on the civil/survey side of things to provide that data until maybe it was already done in our drawing. So we definitely took a very siloed approach, and then we, you know, handed out what was needed via, I mean, there's tons of different ways to do it, XML, sending drawings, you know, whatever it may be, but that may have to be processed in some form or another, boiled down so these other programs can get it. So now that gap has been, with design, that's gone. So now we actually have the ability, whether it's InfoWorks and we want to get going on a Revit project right away, we can establish, just by using InfoWorks, we can go out using the building modeler, get a quick surface. It may not be as accurate as for starter, but we could get that posted up in the right appropriate location coordinates, and therefore those, you know, on the architectural side of things, we can then start, you know, creating our buildings or different plans from there. Also, we can, you know, strengthen that with different, you know, I don't know, additional surveys, take it back into Civil 3D. That's why the arrows are going back and forth there. It may be that we take it into Civil 3D and get a really high-end existing ground surface and or design that goes with it. And we're not just talking surfaces. This could be pipes, everything else. And now that information, via design and docs, can be brought in and they can have real-time collaboration. And the whole idea here, and in fact, Dave, I'll let you, if you don't mind, maybe showing kind of that structure, how it's set up real quick.
Definitely. Definitely. So let me go ahead and
I'll switch that
share my.
over to you.
All right. Can you guys see BIM 360 here?
I can.
All right. So a few things I wanted to talk about as we start getting into BIM 360, and especially document management design with a civil focus, is that when accessing these models, and we're kind of talking about collaborating, you know, back and forth, whether it's external or let's talk about internal, right? So giving our teams a common data or common platform, common data environment, common platform to access all of these all of these models. But let's take it a step further as well. So if we're working internally, a lot of times, like speaking from a civil kind of standpoint, we would see our object files, our XREFs, right? Anything that we would need to reference in, our blocks. A lot of this different information is typically hosted on these local computers or shared networks, right? And then they give everyone access to it that may need it. In this sense, we can do the same thing with BIM 360. It's just as those models or as those drawings, as those files are updated, everything else is updated. So you know, when you get a updated reference of someone, if you're working in conjunction with someone in CAD and we have a reference and we save that, they get a little notification that pops up inside of the application that lets them know that this, you know, drawing has been updated. The same thing is going to apply within Civil 3D when one of these drawings are updated. Now, I will give you a few tips and tricks here as well, because I wanted to talk about the versioning. You'll see the XREF test, my surface here. These have 8 and 9 different versions, okay? Yes, when you open this drawing with Civil 3D, every time that you save, it will make a new version. So tip or trick here, after you download that desktop connector, it's going to be located right kind of in this area here. And if we get into it, you'll see that we can work offline. So we can take that desktop connector offline. What does that do? That actually allows you to save and update that drawing as many times as you need to before updating it back to BIM 360. Okay, so we can kind of work off of our local cache there, save that drawing, update it as we may need to, and then push it up. Now, the other interesting kind of thing to talk about here is, of course, you're seeing the locks as we talked about. You can specify ownership of these drawings and lock them when you get into them, okay? But also pushing past that, you can actually lock any type of, well, not even lock it, but set permissions on each type of any of these folders that you may have, whether they are team spaces or they're an area for links, they're an area for contract documents, specifications, what have you. We can store this data in either the plans folder or the project files here in BIM 360 and give everyone access, controlled access to that information. Okay, now a couple more things since I have you for 3 more minutes. As I was saying there earlier, connecting everyone together, right? So I'll jump into the surface DWG here. And what you'll see is I have instant access right into my 2D as well as 3D views for this project, okay? I can mark up on it, I can take measurements from it, I can actually pull metadata and properties from any part of this model. Now, this is a simple surface, just as an example, but anyone has access to this information. They don't need Civil 3D or Revit or CAD or what have you. They don't need those applications to be able to be a part of this process and communicate with design, especially, and being as, let's say, remote as we all are. Doing design review right now is, it can be kind of a process, right? Whether, you know, whatever program that you're using at this point in time to place markups, you want to try to get all of that data, aggregate it together, and then, you know, of course, make sure that revisions are pushed out accordingly and those reviews are done on time. And that's all part of our process, right? But also making sure they have the updated information. So that's another kind of portion that plays to hosting this data somewhere like BIM 360, right? But also, again, making sure they have access.
Now we do have a hard cutoff time today, so I was going to pull up another slide here in just a minute here, but Dave, I noticed you were showing that viewer there. Could you speak briefly just to how Docs allows us to view these different without having to actually open up a program for those that don't have, say, Civil 3D or Revit or whatever?
Yeah, actually, so all you need to do is you can grant someone access as a project admin, or if you're in the account administrator position, you can grant someone access into any of your projects, either as an executive to give them an overview of the dashboard, which then you can choose to share, you know, views, 3D or 2D views from these folders, or if when you get you grant someone access into your document management environment, they will have access based on, you know, what permissions you specify to look at and see any of these drawings. And the viewer here, again, 2D or 3D, allows us to view all of that data, whether it's coming again from Navisworks, Revit, CAD, Civil 3D, Plant 3D, just allows us to kind of, again, view that data and share that information.
Thank you, Dave. I just wanted, I mean, that's such a huge benefit, you know. Now, anyway, I'm going to pull up a final slide here. If there's, you know, I know half an hour, goodness, to try to talk this one completely through, but please feel free to get a hold of us. And we would love to, you know, further investigate what you got going. And I'll show my screen here. Again, I'm Kevin, and that was Dave Campbell. And you can see my email there. Also, you can reach us on our website. And do definitely get a hold of us. We'll take a look at what you have. We can make sure that we assign the appropriate you know, products for your needs.
Mhm.
and help you all the way from, I mean, we can even start with the project setup, file structures, help you with the complete package there. So I'm going to end it there. I know that we have a hard stop, and I got 1:30 right now. So thank you all so very much for joining us. Please reach out, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Kev. Have a great day, everyone.